with Bulldog Services.
Howdy, howdy.
How you doing?
Hey.
Chase Reagan, Bulldog
Chase.
Services.
Nathan, good to meet you all.
No.
Thanks first and foremost for hosting me here at your facility again today. I think back to the first time that I visited here, I was so impressed with this yard, the black shiny trucks and the matching trailers, these big excavation trucks, which I didn't really know what those were at the time, and the shop in the back and the office up here just looks, it's just really well put together. And so my first question is, how did all this start?
Basically, I've been in the construction industry since my early 20s and been around trucks since I was a kid. So had an opportunity, 8 years ago to start a business, and my previous 5 or 6 years in business was kind of like the pipeline industry. And we used hydrovacs quite a bit. So with having a trucking background and a excavation background, we had an opportunity to start a business. So that's how we kind of started the hydrovac business. And after soon starting the hydrovac business, realized that we needed to create some cash flow. And that's, with being in the trucking industry before, in my mid to late 20s, and having my own trucks then, had a couple trucks then, decided to get into the trucking industry also. And we started with aggregate hauling and realized really quick that, there wasn't a lot of profit in hauling rock and sand and that type of material. So always wanted to be into the heavy haul industry. So kind of in conjunction with the hydrovac industry that we started and got into, we started doing heavy haul also. And over the last 7 years we've kind of built the heavy haul industry bigger than our hydrovac side. So that's kind of how we got started.
Can you tell me a little bit about what hydrovac means? Maybe it's a bit of a niche concept in the supply chain
So
world.
it's basically hydro excavation. So it's high pressure water with suction. So you have either a trailer type unit or a truck, which all we have are trucks. And these trucks come in and they do trenching, or they find existing utilities for pre-construction type work and construction. So basically we go in with these big trucks, we break the water or break the ground up with water, and there's a big boom on the truck that sucks that material up into a debris tank, and then we carry it off and dump it.
Gotcha.
So.
Is that industry heavily regulated? Is there a lot of certifications and licenses?
Basically, it's just regulated kind of by 811. You just like anything else, you have to have a dig ticket before you can dig, even though you're doing it. They call it a soft excavation. You're not using a machine or anything like that, so it's very safe.
Safer, okay.
But it is kind of regulated to where you still have to have basic call in 811 tickets before you can excavate.
Okay.
But other than that, it's not really regulated, but it's something that more GCs and utility contractors and gas companies are having to do versus bring equipment in and excavate that way.
So you see the industry, I guess, is kind of growing? How mature is the industry?
It's every year, because it's becoming almost required a lot of times, especially within cities and municipalities, that you have to use hydro excavation. It's just safer. You're not tearing electrical lines. You're not tearing up gas lines.
Right.
Basically, we go in and make all these lines visible so the contractors can see those lines before they start digging.
I mean, these look like pretty sophisticated pieces of equipment. What kind of specs, I guess, is associated with these?
They're basically just a tri-drive truck, double framed, just a regular, chassis truck that's got a longer frame on it. Those trucks go to a hydrovac builder Obviously, there's several companies out there that build hydrovacs, so they'll take the chassis and put their equipment on them. Different sizes. I mean, depending on what size you want, all the way from 6 or 7 yard debris tanks up to 12, 13, 14 yard debris tanks.
And you kind of have a place that you go to regularly for disposing of that debris?
There's a few places around town where you can dispose. Some contractors and people that we work for, you can dispose on site, depending on how much room they have. And then a lot of times they'll farm that material, dry it out, and reuse it, or haul it off.
Because at the end of the day, it's just kind of mud?
It's just muddy. Yeah. It's just mud. It just turns back to dirt once it dries.
Right.
So
interesting. So there's one thing that's very obvious when anyone sees Bulldog out in public, out on the roads or whatever, and that's just how beautiful your trucks are. Can you tell me a little about kind of how you arrived at that design? And because they're very noticeable. In fact, I was driving down the road the other day and I saw a black truck behind me, and I saw the headlights, I saw the lights up front. I kid you not. I slowed down and let it come up because I just wanted to see whose truck is this. This is beautiful. And I wasn't surprised to see that it was you guys. And I rolled down the window, took a little video while I was driving, and immediately called Taylor. And I said, Taylor, you will not believe, I just saw this beautiful truck. Let it come by me so I could see who it was. I'm going to take a note. What MC number is this? And it was you guys. So I feel like that has, I don't know, what's the concept behind having such a good-looking fleet? What's your strategy there?
Well, I've always been about basically building a brand. Some guys have different color trucks, with their brand. They have several different colors. They look nice or whatever. I always just kind of had the fleet mentality of building them the same. So I like for the trucks to look good, but I also like for everything really being able to work and not being able to hinder the drivers because of you got this nice fancy truck, with these really nice fenders and the drivers being afraid to mess something up. We're all about being uniform, painting our trucks, the tanks, the rear part of the truck. We have the rear part of the trucks built with the light bars and the ramps and all that. So I've always been very particular about how I want my stuff to look, but on the other end, I want it to be able to work also. So there's kind of a fine line there between looking good, having the stuff within the trucks, the right equipment, on the trucks to work, and then being able not to hinder the guys because they're so fancy. Where we go in and out of job sites, rough terrain, things like that, the truck's got to be functionable. So we definitely like them to look good. We definitely like for people to know who we are when they see our trucks and know before they even see the logo who we are. But it's just about building the brand, and you just want that all to be basically uniform.
Is it just me, or are they being custom built because the chassis is all red? And
right.
It's gorgeous.
So obviously we order the trucks. Basically I've spec'd most of these trucks out. Now there's been some because of supply issues and the trucks that are available that I've taken some other trucks that were really close to our spec. But basically we order them with all red frames and black trucks. It's a metallic black, it's a metallic red. And then once we get them, they go to a couple different places. They get the ramps and the tail bars built on them, and then from there they'll go get all the lights and fenders and visors and headlight, everything that we do to it, they'll get put on.
Right.
And then they'll go to a paint guy, and then everything that we have painted, he'll paint everything at the end. So basically now we have a process of who we use and how we do it, and we don't do it in-house. I mean, we stay busy enough with other stuff in-house, so it's all done by somebody else. So, but yeah, we're pretty much doing them all the same way now.
I noticed that you had some folks under trucks out there in the shop. What do you do take care of in-house?
We do basically everything in-house. We can do all of our own maintenance, repairs, basically, and we can do our own rebuilds on a motor if we have to, and this goes back to building a fleet. Most of our trucks are newer, and we try to keep newer trucks. A lot of things are under warranty, so if it's any kind of major warranty work, we'll send to the dealership, but everything else we can do in-house.
I even saw, I think, like a balancing machine, and I
We
saw
do
a
all of our own
welder
tires and everything. With all, with all the tires we have for our trailers and everything, it's just easier to do all of our tires in-house.
Speaking of trailers, you've got some really big pieces of equipment out there. Can you kind of talk a little bit about the specialization, I guess, in trailers in the heavy haul, and how they're different than just your typical flatbed rolling down the road?
Well, I knew very early on that I just didn't want to buy the typical trailers that everybody had. We started growing, and we went from 8-axle to 11-axle, 12, 13-axle trailers. Then we started trying to be more specialized with some European trailers. So we've kind of moved. We have 6 Faymanville trailers that are steerable, that are extendable, different types of trailers. If we have tall loads, we can use. If we have wide loads, long loads, we have definitely different trailers that we can use for multiple kinds of loads. So always kind of a trailer junkie, like different kinds of trailers. It's almost like a hobby of collecting trailers. So we've just we're trying to be as diverse as we can, not just hauling equipment or not just hauling pipeline stuff or oil field stuff. So we're just trying to be in several different markets. We're in the wind market, we're in the oil field market, the power gen market. So to be able to do all these different things, obviously you have to have several different kinds of trailers. So that's why we have so many.
With the heavy haul, you've got your standard hours of operation, your hours of service, regulations, and that safety, and then for the element of the size of these things that are being moved, that just kind of increases the safety factor, I guess, of what you have to keep in mind. Can you talk a little bit about how you train guys to be safe, and kind of how you help make sure that your operations are running safely, whether it's here or Canada or New York, California, wherever you might be?
If you know you have a difficult load or project coming up, grab the guys that are more experienced in whatever those loads may entail, and then just have a lot of pre-meetings to talk about obstacles and what you're hauling and where you're going in the different states, and because obviously we go all over the U.S. and they're tall, they're wide. A lot of these different states, you get away from the south, the southwest or the west, and you go north or the Midwest or the Northeast, the roads get smaller, the bridges get shorter, the routes get crazier, but all you can really do is try to, have meetings with your guys and talk about the projects and talk about the loads and the obstacles that they're going to run into, and go through the permitting and go over the routes once we get them in the route surveys. So really communication and just drilling into these guys what they're going to be dealing with is the best way to handle basically a difficult project. And look, we all make mistakes. There's always been things that happen, and whenever we've had a line strike or a bridge hit, we've always sat down and used that as a tool to go through with all the guys, and hey, here's what happened, this is why it happened. And granted, you don't want to use those kinds of incidents as training, but they really are. Sometimes the best training is making a mistake.
Of course.
Right? I know that these guys can never be trained enough. You can never have enough safety. But when you're dealing with trucking and oversized equipment and loads and stuff like that, safety is obviously a big issue.
Did I notice that I saw some cameras and maybe some different radars and stuff on some of the trucks?
So all of our trucks have front and rear facing cameras inside the truck, and then we also have side view cameras. And it's basically, nowadays there's a lot of people out there looking to create an incident with a trucking company. So we're trying to protect ourselves as much as we can with different cameras, and also to make sure, if there is an issue, we can go back and look at the cameras. Was it our fault? Was it the vehicle's fault? So there's been a lot of issues where we use these cameras. I mean, a lot of times where our guys will call us and say, hey, somebody sideswiped me, and I'll look at the cameras and it was totally not our fault, or I can see it was our fault, and then we take care of it. The insurance companies like us to have all the cameras, but it protects us from somebody deliberately kind of doing something to cause an issue or an accident. Plus, it's nice, the cameras too, when they're loading or unloading. Sometimes with the pilot trucks, we can see the progress of the unloading and loading because of where they park. Sure. So sometimes that works out good.
Because you can remotely turn on the camera and see kind of what's
going on.
on.
If the truck's running, then the camera's on.
Yeah.
So and we can refresh and kind of get a snapshot of what they're doing.
Right, right. On the topic of drivers and just knowing about how complicated and detail-oriented and focused drivers have to be when they're hauling something 100 feet long behind them, would you say that heavy haul trucking is kind of at kind of the peak or pinnacle of a driver's career? Is that kind of like the ultimate in terms of challenge and pay and whatnot because of the difficult nature of it?
Well, I definitely think so. When it comes to pay, when it comes to difficulty, experience, stress, the heavy haul industry is at the top of all of that. So, it's going to be the best pay typically. It's going to be the highest stress, the hardest work. It's not just getting on the pavement and running 600 or 700 miles a day necessarily. The bigger loads, it's just a lot more planning, a lot more detail oriented. So yes, heavy haul to me is the pinnacle of trucking.
Well, hey, Chase, thanks for
Nathan.
the time.
Yep.
And let me take a look at your place. So can you show us around?
Absolutely. Well,
Okay.
We've got reception right here, conference room. It's our permit coordinator, Jarvis. This is Miss Kelly's office, co-owner, with Chase. Yeah, some dirty dishes, keeping it real. This is where all the magic happens, heavy haul side. This is my office. Yes, many hours, many of miles stroked on the keyboard. Shop cat, yes. This is our mechanic's office, ordering parts and whatnot. Tire changing machine, we change all, mount all of our own tires. This will do from like a go-kart up to a very big ag tractor. On the heavy haul side, we use a lot of small tires. Go on 17.5-inch rims, and they're 18 ply. Tires are consumable in this game, especially these little ones. They get real hot real fast. They don't disperse the heat as well. So we do go through quite a few of them.
Is there retreading or anything like that can happen with those?
We don't run recap tires for liability, with the weight that's on the tires.
Oh, that makes sense.
We gauge them and everything, and definitely we don't just say, this one's a little worn, let's put a new one on. Tires are very expensive. We'll take a lot of the drive tires off of the heavy haul fleet and repurpose them on the hydro excavation side.
Gotcha.
One thing we do, we go through a lot of oil, changing our own and everything. We're in Texas, so it's not utilized the most, but whenever this right here, we'll heat the whole shop on old engine oil.
So yeah, in the summer this gets no use, or even in the spring and the fall it's not going to get any use.
Yeah.
Just the the coldest of days in the
Yes,
winter time.
because
Yeah.
this concrete floor, you know, gets hot. It also gets very cold,
Uh-huh.
and it's those cold spells do come. You know, definitely a game changer. Productivity and just, you know, modern comforts for, you know, the guys that are out here.
What about these blue things? I don't see these in normal warehouses.
No, that's because they are very proud of them. These are pretty pricey, but they're a game changer when it comes to efficiency, and you know, each one's rated for 20,000 pounds.
Uh-huh.
You know, so there's a lot of times where, with all the scheduling conflicts that just is what we do, you know, you got to adapt. You know, you got to be able to take stuff off the trailer, you know, set it down, put it on another trailer, you know, and rather than having a big crane, an NCCO operator and stuff, you know, we utilize these jacks a lot more than just for ease of mechanics, you know, raising trailers and trucks up to get underneath.
Right.
We got spreader bars and extensions, and they're all synchronized. Right now, we have the ability to take on and off, you know, 120,000 pound payloads.
Yeah.
Our mechanic's laptop and everything has got all the engine manufacturer's software. We're in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but there's sometimes, you know, depending on what time of day, just getting to town, you lose a lot of time, and then also control. We know what we did to our equipment, able to, you know, execute a plan to get it back on the road rather than waiting for someone to call us back or follow up, you know.
Understood. Makes sense.
On, oh, we're waiting on this part, or then it's like, are you really? You know.
Yeah. One.
So this right here is our workhorse around the yard. 36,000 pound rated forklift. Able to tap in and free the brakes on the trailers, you know, be able to move them around.
Because your trailers are kind of like Legos and modular. and you
Modular,
can kind
yes. Can be broken down, put a flat deck, drop side deck, a beam, you know, as well as add it linearly, add extensions, you know, to accommodate. We haul a lot of truck cranes, so sometimes we'll need 42, 46, you know, 52 feet in the well, and there's more strength traditionally, you know, in modular trailers rather than telescopic. They can be a pain getting the shims right and everything, but
But once they're together, they
yes,
they
and lighter.
perform better.
Yeah.